Island, but they do share something in common with Carolina.
Well, the committee looks very good right now. The ACC 5-1 with only the Georgia Tech loss there, and the Atlantic 10 at 4-0. JB doing very well.
And certainly when you think about Eric Montross in the middle, a man mountain, what in the world would Carolina do to try to free him?
Well, of course, they do an awful lot of things to get the ball to Eric Montross down low. One of the great things they do is reverse the ball extremely well. Gives him an opportunity to post up down here. And you can see East Carolina thought they're in great shape on this particular play. Hey, Montross is way away from the ball, but watch what happens. A skip pass out to the front where Rhode at 6'8" can make a great entry-level pass. Montross will seal the defense, and when he does, there's no stopping him inside. There's the reversal pass. Montross on the seal. It's all over.
The Rams have a lot of versatile players, including a guard by the name of Carlos Cofield. 22 points the other night.
22 points, very unorthodox scorer, but he has a nose for the ball. He has some big games ahead of him.
Well, we've got Packers points about the game. It's certainly appropriate to check in with the coaches and get their thoughts.
Well, offensively, I think they're very quick. They run the flex. They run a lot of screening action, and for us to take them out of what they'd like to do would be a key for us.
We got to use our quickness. We got to move our feet. As physical as they are, basketball is still a game of skill and it's a game of quickness, and that's what we're going to try to utilize.
Well, they're very tenacious and very quick. They're quicker than we are. We do have size in Eric's position, but it'll be a war on the rebounding.
We're not big enough, we're not strong enough, and so you have to bring a certain attitude to the floor in order to be successful, and at least for us, and that's the attitude that we bring, that there's only one way to go, and that's forward.
Carolina has the height advantage in this matchup of Lynch, Reese, Montross, Phelps, and Williams going against Brown, Samuel, Solis, Easterling, and Cofield of Rhode Island. And we're underway.
Good hands, JB. You got in your NCAA tournament game right there.
Didn't know that I had the quickness still there, Bill. I tell you, the referees for today's contest, Bob Garibaldi out of Stockton, California, Ted Valentine from Orient, Ohio, and Tom Brzezinski out of Toledo, Ohio. And I promise not to call you Bill Rafferty today again.
You know, Donald Williams starting may be something that we saw in regard to the scouting report. He's a guy with a great outside shot, and maybe Dean Smith expected Rhode Island to pack things back in to stop Montross.
Well, they've certainly got a good weapon in Williams out there. He's taking more three-point field goals this season than two-point field goals.
And that's not the case at all. They go straight man-to-man, and you can see Solis will have no chance whatsoever in this game to stop Montross if he's going to play him straight up one-on-one. They'll throw right over his head. You've got to play some defenses that pack some things in on that big man.
Montross having his best season to date with the Tar Heels, and really he is awfully strong on the inside.
270 pounds, legitimate 7 feet.
And Montross with the rebound.
And very strong hands. When he touches the ball, it's a sure thing.
And Williams from 3.
So that is why he's starting, JB. If you're Al Skinner, you said, you know, that's something I didn't need to see early on.
Talk about a nice inside-outside combination with Montross and Williams.
Here come the traps. Let's go on a straight man-to-man, but you put the ball down, and you get some traps coming.
Samuel finds the range. Nice shot. One thing about this Rhode Island squad, and I mentioned this before, they don't back down. This is Lynch. And Lynch misses the layup, the rebound by Samuel.
This is a club that played in some very difficult places on the road. Actually, they played right here against Wake Forest. We'll talk about that later in that forfeit game. But they played at Alabama. They played at Arizona. Tough games in the Atlantic 10. So they've been on the road, and they're 9-9 on the year on the road. So it's not going to fluster them here.
Montross changing the side up on the inside and blocking it. It goes over to North Carolina.
Picking up early. Not a bad idea here to spread it, take a little time so that North Carolina can't get in their standard pattern.
Solis inside, fronting Eric Montross.
And trying to push Montross a little bit further out in the blocks than he normally stands. Good double teaming. Nobody coming to the ball.
Reese.
That was intended to be a pass. And Montross kind of took his eye off it, but Reese, you know, that had to either be a little bit higher or a little bit lower. Watch this, it goes right at the rim. If it had been a little bit lower, Montross would have been all over. Kind of a line drive pass on the inside.
And Montross had the correct reaction by turning to go to the basket.
I think he probably would have caught the sight of the ball out of the side of his eye, you know, and probably would have been able to pick it off. But just no chance when it was a line drive at the rim.
5-2 ball game here at the Joel Coliseum. Carolina on top. This is Samuel challenging Montross and draws the foul. Good hard move to the basket by Andre Samuel, the junior forward out of Massapequa, New York.
Excellent cross-court passing. George Lynch went for the steal, which he is, of course, the all-time leader at the University of North Carolina with steals, but it put Montross in a tough shape. And as you can see, Samuel, as is the case with so many of the Rhode Island players, not afraid to take it to the basket.
And that's exactly what I meant, Billy, when I said this squad, the Rams, do not back down from a challenge at all.
Rhode Island, the #1 free throw shooting team in the Atlantic 10, right at about 72%. It's kind of surprising. Samuel, who goes to the line a lot, as does Collins, are the two poorest free throw shooters on the team.
Samuel at 66% on the season. 5-3 Carolina.
Zone trap.
Williams.
Oh, good follow through.
And that a 2. 165 threes on the season for Williams. 147 twos.
And there's the big overplay by North Carolina. A trademark of Dean Smith's defense, and the kind of thing that you better get ready for some backdoor cuts.
This is Cofield. Along with Easterling in the backcourt, this is Solis. Solis has been reluctant to take that outside shot. Finally taking it. Off the front iron, rebounded by Brian Reese.
Now North Carolina with this team, even Rhode out of there now, who's 6'8". North Carolina has very good team rebounding here. Good pass. George Lynch at one of those patented 8 to 10 foot jump shots of his. Very seldom ventures beyond 15, 18 feet offensively.
Quietly has carved himself a nice niche in the North Carolina record books. Solis.
Good help from the weak side by Lynch. And there again, backcourt rebounding. That time Donald Williams.
As Jim Nance mentioned in the studio, Phelps played 14 minutes the other night. The game plan was for him to play only 10. Tough shot. Montross.
And there's Lynch, so strong on the inside. Has worked his way up to the #3 all-time rebounder at North Carolina, behind only Sam Perkins and Billy Cunningham, and he'll probably catch Cunningham if they win a couple more games in the NCAA tournament.
Nice strip by Andre Samuel. Hard-working, quiet type of player. Andre Samuel, strong on the defensive end.
Phelps and Easterling out here in a battle in the backcourt. Played for the same high school, Christ the King. Easterling, of course, a couple of years older. Phelps was on the JV team when Easterling was leading the varsity.
And Reese is going at it
with Mike Brown. Now, Brown went at it, of course, with Glenn Robinson the other day. Did a great job.
And Phelps taking advantage of the fact that they're fighting on the other side and goes easy to the basket.
Well, Easterling tripped over his own man on that play, and so it allowed Derek to be wide open.
11-3 ball game. North Carolina on top. 14:56 left in the first half as Montross rebounds. That is 8 rebounds for Carolina, only 1 by Rhode Island. Carolina controlling the boards, Billy.
Nice play by Samuel. Smart play. He anticipated the long pass. And Easterling hits one from downtown.
A 3 for Carlos Easterling, a 38% shooter from three-point range.
Easterling regained his starting position when Jason Alexander was put down by Al Skinner.
And there's a loose ball foul going to be called on Reese, who was just a little frustrated, Billy.
Exactly right, JB. A little frustrated the way Brown has been pushing him. Back in December, we talked about the Magnificent Seven. I felt all along that this group of teams was above the notch in regard to the rest of the country. Look at what they did in their first round of tournament. 31-point margin of victory by that group. North Carolina now with Sullivan in, Salvadori in, goes to their big lineup, Rhode in, and they're playing their 2-3 zone. A lot of traps out of this particular zone. You got to bust through. East Carolina did a nice job against North Carolina the other day by busting underneath the double-team traps.
And Devon Collins in number 30 for Rhode Island. He's one of 3 guys who plays the middle for the Rams. Samuel making his move too quickly before getting control of the ball. A turnover. That is number 1 for Rhode Island. Trailing Carolina 11-6.
Samuel not upset at all. Motion back. And here we have Abdul Fox ready to come in.
And what do they call him when he comes off the bench?
It's going to be Fox time, and he came in a little early. Normally comes in after 7 minutes, came in with 6 minutes 3 seconds today. So
Al Skinner obviously feeling a little antsy about getting him in there.
And Rhode Island goes to his zone of their own with a big steal on Sullivan.
Samuel.
Now, interesting. North Carolina without Williams in the game, without Lynch, and without Reese. This is not a real good perimeter shooting club on the floor.
Nor a team that can create on his own in terms of a shot. Good hands by Samuel again, and another steal.
And wisely held up.
4 steals on the afternoon by Samuel.
You know, Rhode Island's a deep team, JB. They're not going to be overcome by North Carolina's substitution pattern. Matter of fact, I think that the substitution pattern's worked in the favor of Rhode Island here.
And working in the favor of the Rams on that shot, Abdul Fox, who leads the team in scoring. As you take a look at Al Skinner, who plays 9 men. He can go 9 deep. A 7-0 run by the Rams.
Not only 9 deep, but the nice flexibility when he comes off the bench. So one big advantage North Carolina normally has against people won't be true here today.
Sullivan gets his own rebound and scores. And you know, Dean Smith has been trying to get Pat Sullivan to shoot the ball more. He's obviously having his best season as a Tar Heel.
Solid player, 6'7", 6'8". Doesn't have great quickness, but pretty smart player. There's the double team trap. Fox goes right around Montross.
A little too hard on the shot, rebounded by Phelps. And Phelps taking it to the hoop. Nice lefty. Well, I tell you, nothing antsy or sluggish about that move to the hoop.
Well, Phelps showed us a lot of courage the other day. Came in the game, drew a charge right off the bat. People worrying about his spine.
And a foul called underneath.
Now, one of the things about Derek Phelps, he really can go well to the basket. Of course, obviously being a left-hander, had no problem there with the angle to the basket. You've got to go ahead and play off him and make him put up some jump shots.
Take a look at Mike Moten into the lineup for Rhode Island. That last foul was on Abdul Fox, his first personal and first team foul for Rhode Island. As you take a look at Rafael Solis on the bench, huffing and puffing. He's got a tough task ahead of him defending against a very strong player like Eric Montross.
But they'll be able to go with Moten as they have right now. They can also come with Collins, so they'll have 3 men to go in there to waste 15 fouls and a lot of energy. There we see that 2-3 zone again, matching up and really putting pressure on Donald Williams. Pretty good trap. Touch foul.
And Al Skinner feels it was a tough foul and a touch foul. From the southeast.
Some good potential matchups there. Seton Hall, a team we've all been talking about from the Big East, playing so well at this time of year. You would anticipate that they can keep playing that tough, hard-nosed defense. Very deep team.
And how well, you may ask, 12 straight games, including the Big East Championship, as Williams off the front iron, scrapped for and gotten by George Lynch.
George Lynch has that ability to get right underneath the ball. Although he's only 6'7", he's some kind of rebounder. There's Donald Williams, 3 out of 4 so far today. Really puts a different characteristic on this North Carolina team when he's in the game.
And Billy, you feel if he's actually to play a little longer, he could be even more effective as a shooter.
Right there, he played safety man on that trapping defense. Did a good job as they tried to throw over Rhode.
Rhode, a better standstill shooter, loses it on the dribble.
Yep, tried to go too far.
Ahead to Fox.
He'll pull up.
And connect.
Yeah, Fox leading scorer for this basketball team. Although in minutes played, he is not the, by far, he's not the leading guy in terms of minutes played, but production on the offensive end is amazing.
And because of that productivity, leading a team and scoring at 15 a game, considered one of the best 6 men in the country.
Salvadori with a push-off. Nice defense by Fox, readjusting.
And the score, give it to Kevin Salvadori, the 7-footer out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it's a 19-12. Carolina lead with 10:20 left in the first half of play. The number 1 seed, Carolina, taking on the 8th seed out of the Atlantic 10.
JB, what made that play work? Easterling, eye contact. Lynch will take it in. Eye contact, did a good job.
Nice block by Collins. DeMont Collins got up and blocked the 7-footer Salvadori.
Backcourt, violation there. I really thought that Collins came down on Salvadori's leg, so it wasn't a foul.
It would not have been a walk either.
Right.
But he thought it was going to be a walk.
I think he hurt himself a little bit, though, JB. He's still down on the floor, and that could really hurt that rotation in the middle for Rhode Island. I don't think that the team recognizes yet that he's down on the floor, neither does the referee.
And, Billy, how many ankle twists and sprains do you see with the guy coming down?
Well, the trainer from Rhode Island doesn't realize it, and now the University of North Carolina trainer comes out. Rather unusual, because you've got 9 men down on one end of the floor. Well, Lamont Collins sitting down here on the other end. Of course, he'll have to come out now, or they'll have to call a timeout. I don't see anybody up yet to sub for him.
And, Billy, as I was mentioning, so many times you see those ankle sprains occur with one player coming down on the foot of another player. And that's
looks like you're talking to the knee right now, or looking at the knee right now. And it looks like Ivy Jones is going to come in as substitute for Collins. And, of course, in basketball, as in most sports, the referee's job is to give as much time as is necessary for the athlete to go ahead and make sure he's okay.
And good to see him putting weight on that knee.
Kind of surprised the trainer letting him walk it off here. And it will be Ivy Jones coming in, and that makes Rhode Island very small right now with Montross and Lynch back into the ballgame.
And certainly Rhode Island will hope that the injury is not too serious, because, as I mentioned, DeMont Collins, one of the 3 guys who plays in that middle by committee for the Rams.
And Moten is really wanting to bang down in there with Montross. Playing straight man now. North Carolina love to swing the ball. There it is. They swing it to Montross.
They got him out high like they wanted. This is Phelps. You know, Phelps, one of the biggest concerns of folks, that he obviously runs the team quite well, Billy, but they were hoping that he would take his shot more, because he can do it.
And there's a solid screen on Phelps, something he's got to be careful of, because, you know, the blind screen could put him in a tough shape with that back.
Nice pass by Fox. And Mike Brown fouled going to the basket. Well, Billy, I talk about a bracket breaker out west, Santa Clara knocking off Arizona. That really ought to open things up nicely for the Atlantic 10 representative, Temple.
Very, very possible. You know, interesting talking about Temple. We talked to Mike Brown, who did that great job, even though Robinson hit for over 30 points in the game. But I asked him, have you played anybody this year anywhere near Robinson athletically and in terms of his offensive ability? And he said Aaron McKee of Temple. You know, when you think around the country of great players, Aaron McKee's name doesn't jump out at you. He said, I think he's every bit as good offensively. Averaged 20.6 a game to lead the Atlantic 10 this year. The young man that John Chaney's club certainly is going to use in this tournament.
Williams rebounded.
Looks like he's been given the green light today by Dean Smith. Trying to force baseline North Carolina's traditional defense.
4 rebounds for Eric Montross, and Carolina owning the boards 12-4. And you see the ice back on that knee of DeMont Collins. Word from the bench, just a bruise, so certainly the Rams are hopeful that he can get back into the action.
Brian Reese putting up that jumper, of course, had the great ACC tournament where he made all tournament first team. North Carolina looking like they're going to put that jump shot up early here and allow Lynch and Montross to go for it. Here's the double team, and Easterling's got a waste of timeout.
And a waste indeed, because you shouldn't stop the dribble with nothing to do.
The NCAA Women's Final Four, April 3rd on CBS.
You have better things to do than having to think about how much you're paying for long distance.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on this stuff.
So AT&T makes it easy. With the iPlan, you get a good deal no matter how you call. No lists, names, or hassles. I is for simple. To switch to AT&T free, call 1-800-582-7800. I is for individual, only from AT&T.
The Grand Am's great.
Well, what happened to the Accord?
Yeah.
I found out what the Accord really cost. With air, automatic, anti-lock brakes, $19,500.
Whoa.
Huh? They weren't talking to me.
Really? Wow. The Grand Am, they don't give that away.
Air, automatic, standard anti-lock brakes, $5,000 less than the Accord.
5 less?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Do you know what that means a month? Got me into a new car.
What are you going to do with the money?
Eat.
Above all else, I had to win her. But should I go here or there? Or just put my pants on backwards? Would she feel it was a cosmic roller coaster to the stars? Or just a metaphysical bus ride to Palookaville? I seized the moment.
Share the six-pack. Coors Light, the right beer now.
Too many businesses today leave their customers up in the air. But Allstate is different. Your Allstate agent's job is to keep you secure for years to come. To stick by you so that you stay with Allstate for your car insurance and home insurance. For years. For life. You're in good hands with Allstate.
You are watching the NCAA Basketball Championship on CBS.
The lineup coming in the Midwest later today, Billy.
JB, you can see Kansas there holding their own for the Big Eight. The Big Eight, 6 teams in, but 4 are already gone. And remember, last year, the Big Eight was 7 teams, only advanced 1, Oklahoma State, to the Sweet 16. Oklahoma State's still alive, so not a good day opening round for the Big Eight again.
And Billy, certainly we know it's a team game, but you can't help but focus on that matchup between Jason Kidd of California and Bobby Hurley of Duke, and it looks like a foul will be called on the inside here on Mike Brown of Rhode Island.
No, I think it's going to be Phelps over the back.
Over the back.
Yeah.
All right.
But shows you that Phelps is in pretty good shape, because Brown, a solid rebounder, number 4 rebounder all time for Rhode Island. And here's a guard going over his back.
And going over the top from three-point range is Kyle Ivy Jones out of Hempstead, New York. 22-16, Carolina on top. 8:10 left in the first half of play.
Whoa, boy, I thought
that looked to be awfully good as a charge.
I thought it was a great defensive play by Easterling, and I really think that he caught Derek Phelps, kind of surprised him by being there. No question, that was a charge.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, you can't square up on a guy any better than that.
Picture perfect.
Yep. Of course, the veteran against the rookie. Can you imagine a guy facing a fellow that he looked up to when he was in junior high and said, boy, someday I'd like to play like Easterling. Now he's got to play against him.
And the double team on Montross on the inside draws the foul. This one will go on Mike Brown. Well, Ernie Banks, you heard at the top, said let's play for the second game of the sequence today. St. John's and Arkansas, Tulane, Florida State. A lot of speed in that matchup there, Tulane and Florida State.
Certainly should be. And you can see North Carolina now taking the chance to just lob the ball over the top to Eric Montross.
Reese, short. Williams finally comes up with it.
Boy, normally when there's a loose ball like that and it goes out to a guard, you've got somebody open inside.
Lynch is open on the inside, though.
Nice maneuver and spin drop step move by Lynch. Really freed himself up.
From the outside for 3, Brown rebounded by Reese. Over to Williams. To make it Phelps.
Derek Phelps off to a big scoring day.
You know, Billy, we talked about the couple of spills that he did take on that bruised tailbone, serving as a plus for Phelps the other night.
Right. Twice this year he's been put down. Once in Florida State, he hurt his elbow, which is still, of course, he still uses that bandage. And then, of course, the tailbone incident against University of Virginia.
5 strong rebounds in the afternoon for Montross.
Oh, good grab there by Fox.
Lynch is fouled on the follow, so he'll take a trip to the free throw line. And a foul is called on Mike Moulton.
You can see Lynch with it. Strong hands right back. He's so quick to the ball. And there you go. Lynch only 16 away from the great Billy Cunningham. Hall of Famer. And there's Sam Perkins, a 4-year player who leads them all, a great professional career, and obviously one of the great multiple-year All-Americans at University of North Carolina.
The rebounding today of Lynch and Montross accounting for a 17-5 advantage over Rhode Island. Lynch on the second offering gets the drop.
George Lynch with 1,500 points, 1,000 rebounds, over 200 assists, over 200 steals. Only Christian Laettner in the history of the ACC can match that record.
And he's done it quietly.
Yeah, he sure has. One National Player of the Year, and the other, in the case of George Lynch, people said, well, you know, maybe he won't be an all-conference performer.
Samuel's shot is off. Moten trying to go up strong. Rebounded again by Montross.
Good hit ahead.
18-5 advantage on the boards.
That was not unexpected.
Sullivan. There's a foul underneath.
Well, what's happening right now in that particular case, Fox realizing Lynch is getting such great position and anticipating that the ball was going to be dumped down inside by Sullivan, just had the foul to knock Lynch out of the way.
And not a good foul for Al Skinner as Fox picks up his third personal.
That really hurts. First of all, you put him on the bench for the first 6 minutes and 3 seconds. You never anticipate a guy who plays that few minutes to be in foul trouble. You want him, when you're going to put him on the floor, to be out there the entire time.
Montross way off the mark, but rebounded. Strong move on the inside by Sullivan, and Carolina with its biggest lead of the ball game, 29-16.
Playing right over the top right now of Rhode Island. What I think set the stage for this is Williams being able to hit from the outside. Here comes that trap, but from too far away.
Nice move on the inside by Kyle Ivey-Jones.
Pretty tough, JB, to trap from that far away. It really messes up the spacing, and by the time you get there, the passing lane is open. So it put the other North Carolina defenders actually in a situation where it's 4 against 3.
Montross, and you were talking about the banging going on the inside, and Moten whistled that time for the foul.
Well, what they're doing, they're just going ahead and trying to muscle Eric Montross, and he's holding him from the back, from the front. And Al Skinner now has a multiple problem in this respect. Well, Lamont Collins, who went down with that knee injury, he doesn't have his third big man to put in there. Collins still sitting over there with the ice pack on the knee. So Al Skinner's really concerned. As you can see him over there, JB, saying, how do we slow this big guy down? Other than tackling him.
Henrik Rhode back in the ball game for North Carolina, and certainly hurting the Rams' cause today. Carlos Cofield, who scored 22 points the other evening and averages 11, has yet to score in just the first half.
That's right, and he's come up big in other games, 21 against Massachusetts, 23 against Rutgers, so you really can't have him at 0, particularly with Abdul Fox sitting on the bench with 3 fouls. So where do the points come from?
And this is Cofield handling the ball.
And there's North Carolina playing their zone. George Lynch calls the shots back here. It goes everything from a 2-3 look to a 1-3-1 look. Most of the time, a 1-3-1 pointed on the ball.
It's not the only time you hear George Lynch talk is when he's calling out the defensive signals. Inside to Moten. Fall away. No good. Jones with the rebound. No good.
Good job by Lynch to keep the ball active for his teammates.
Sullivan ahead to Rhode. And Rhode attempting the bounce pass, and a foul is going to be called on Cofield.
Now you can see a little, we talked about the differences between these two clubs. Of course, Rhode Island, 5 appearances. Their last great run was in 1988. Right here, matter of fact, they played on Carolina's home court over in Chapel Hill. They beat Missouri and Syracuse, and then went on, of course, in the Eastern Regionals, losing to Duke 73-72. 22-10 that year with Silk Owens and Tommy Garrett, 2 guys that scored over 1,400 points. Great team that Tommy Penders put together, and almost advanced beyond the Blue Devils.
And this is only the 3rd ever meeting between these two ball clubs. And interestingly, guess who has the lead in the series?
You know, North Carolina, the winningest team in college basketball, has very few people, JB, that have winning records against it. But Rhode Island has them shut out. 2-0, huh?
2-0. Last time they met, though, we'll explain that one back in 1950. The 11-2 North Carolina run the last 3 minutes. Carolina on top, 33-18. Brown goes in, rebounded by Montross.
Well, that was a good foul, and I'll tell you why by Ivy Jones. Sullivan was wide open on the other end of the floor. And what is starting to frustrate Rhode Island a little bit now, and particularly their defensive balance is going to be affected by this, is that they realize they've got to send 5 men to the offensive boards. And when you do that, obviously there's nobody back.
Rafael Solis back into the ball game, replacing Moten. As we take a look at what will be happening in the West, Illinois, Vanderbilt, Temple, Santa Clara. And again, we've already talked about what potentially could be a bracket buster out west, with Arizona losing and Temple one tough team. You talked about Temple's McKee being such a dangerous player. Solis was also, when we asked him who the strongest guy is he's played against, and he also talked about another Temple player.
Yes, he did. He talked about a number of guys. He talked about Yinka Dare, who you talked about earlier, JB, as being a real factor for GW as well, another Atlantic 10 team who you've seen play a number of times this year, and you're putting him in some pretty strong company.
I tell you, in terms of base talent and potential, Yinka Dare has every bit the same that Olajuwon and Ewing had at that stage, at least. Cofield forcing the action.
That's the kind of shot he dropped the other day against Purdue, time and time again for the 22 points, but not effective today against some superior size.
How ineffective? No points yet for Cofield as you take a look at Dean Smith. His squad has outscored Rhode Island 13-2. Last 3 minutes and 25 seconds. We've got 4:23 left in the first half.
There's the 1-2-2 zone now by Rhode Island, trying to figure out some way to get enough size inside to stop Montross.
Boy, and they can't find a gap.
No. But JB, it looks, not only is he 7 feet and has that big body, but actually on some of these rebounds, he looks like he's 1.5 feet above anything Rhode Island's got in outstretched hands.
8 points in the first half for Montross. He averages 16.
Good block by Montross.
Montross was going for his 9th rebound in the first half. Lost the handle, but Carolina has the lead.
If this is how you think of Volvo.
John, 23-8, and the reason for it is right here, Eric Montross. Watch the block out to try to take place, but Montross will play right above everybody's head here on the missed shot by Calabria.
A strong bottom half as well for Montross. Cannot be moved once he's positioned down there. The only guy I saw give him a lot of trouble strength-wise was Luther Wright of Seton Hall this year.
That's true, and I think it's going to take that kind of player or an awful lot of quickness full court to take that away from North Carolina. Good strip of the ball.
But it stays down this end, according to Ted Valentine. 3:39 left and a half to play. Carolina on top, 37-18.
You know, and with Fox on the bench, North Carolina showing an awful lot of zone, JB, and somewhere Rhode Island will have to find somebody that can go out and bust up that zone, and North Carolina will play back in there. Good backdoor.
And a good look by Eric Montross. Rhode with the basket.
You concentrate so much on the big guy inside. When he steps outside, you take a sigh of relief and then get beat on a backdoor cut. Here again, trapping out of the zone. Over the back.
Way over the mark. Rebounded by Sullivan. Knocked out by Jones.
Here we're going to see the backdoor cut. Now watch Montross step outside. We'll see it go, and backdoor cut. Nice inside.
And back to live action is Brian Reese. Adds to a 19-2 run by North Carolina. Tar Heels on top, 41-18.
This is not what Al Skinner wanted, and I think the pace was set. Nice hit.
Good passing. Strong move by Sullivan. Blocked by Ivy Jones, but foul.
How about the teamwork on that play, though? North Carolina never looks at faces. They never look at numbers. They just hit open people. And that's why this system, year after year after year, has been so successful. Watch this right here. Boom, boom, right back. That's just sensational open court pass.
No need to put the ball on the floor at all.
Well, we talked about this the other night, JB. This team probably dribbles the ball less than anybody in college basketball. They don't waste a lot of time putting it down on the floor. And in the days before the clock came in, of course, when they had the four corners, you know, and Dean Smith has always been a guy that's an advocate. Hey, tell me what the rules are, and I'll play by them. When they had the four corners, they had the great Phil Ford that would go ahead and dribble the ball right on by you. But now, without that in, it's a team that passes its way to victory.
George Lynch back in for the Tar Heels, replacing Pat Sullivan. Strong substitution role by Sullivan thus far. 43-18, Carolina on top. Not a good pass to Solis, a little too low.
He did a pretty decent job just going ahead and getting his hands on it.
Cincinnati, impressive win over Coppin State, team that was undefeated in the MEAC in regular season play. And a foul on the inside as Samuel taking it to the basket.
Well, that time Rhode Island said, let's see what it looks like to throw a long pass of our own. They got by with it.
Kevin Salvadori and replacing Eric Montross.
This has been an awesome first half display against a Rhode Island team that, I'll be quite honest with you, I thought was going to give North Carolina a decent run, at least for a while.
You weren't by yourself in that one.
Yep. And there's the 2-3 zone matching up. Now watch Lynch. He's flattened out, but then when people break to the wing, it turns into a 1-3-1 type setup.
And that's the confusing aspect of this defense.
And Lynch is such a smart player on that back line.
Brown for three. Boy, Rhode Island has not scored a point in over 3 minutes. And Carolina's D certainly taking some of the credit for that. And that explains some of the numbers that you see, especially that 21%, Billy, from the field.
Yep, and of course that rebound margin is staggering. Cofield and Fox, two fellas you'd expect to get some production out of. You're at Al Skinner, just not there today. No points, no assists. Fox on the bench with 3 fouls. And you know, if you're Al Skinner, you've got it. You might even start thinking, hey, wait a second. What am I saving him for? You know, you got 3 fouls. You get in a situation where you're so far behind, it's no sense saving him for the second half.
And, you know, for almost the same reason as you take a look at Abdul Fox, that Eddie Payne called those timeouts so quickly when East Carolina was playing North Carolina. Keep your team close so they can feel like they're still in it.
Exactly. It was a masterful coaching job in terms of trying to control tempo by using your timeouts. But with only 3, that's a problem.
Foul on Brian Reese, his second. And don't forget, coming up, the Prudential Securities at the half. Jim Nance, Bill Raftery, and Mike Francesa. Mike Francesa, supposedly 39 years of age. Yeah, he and Satchel Paige, huh?
Collins, of course, hit the 2 free throws that sealed things up the other night against Purdue. 74-68 win.
And Collins with the free throw, making it 43-19, less than 2 to play in the first half.
And now with Montross out of the game, a relatively small team on the floor.
Wow. Now that shot had icicles on it when it came down.
But, you know, give Dean Smith credit. He started Donald Williams today. It really threw Rhode Island off track early because they were not allowed to pack down inside. Williams opened up the game by hitting 2 jumpers.
Well, Williams is on track. He's got 10 first-half points, averaging 13 on the season. Nice, strong rebound on the inside by Samuel.
Donald Williams high in the year is 27, that being against Duke. Really an explosive score.
Off the back of the
what a rebound.
Strong one by Lynch, but off of his leg, it'll go to Rhode Island.
You know, we talked a strong rebound by George Lynch. I was reading something about him not too long ago. He was a premature baby. Only weighed 3 pounds at birth. So he has come a long way since that time, huh?
He's eating pretty well.
I guarantee you. Strong dude.
One of over 60 Division I players that Stu Vetter has turned out. Stu Vetter, as I mentioned before, one of the outstanding high school coaches in America. Short by Cofield. Boy, Cofield really having a rough day.
Remember what I said?
Reese.
What's happening to Rhode Island right now is they're so frustrated they can't get any rebounds. They're sending 5 guys to the board. Consequently, nobody back. It was just a matter of time till North Carolina would get something wide open like that.
Samuel. Jump ball, and the arrow goes to Carolina.
Now, what's happening right now to these young men, and nobody needs a halftime more than does Al Skinner, because his fellas are not only frustrated, I think they're starting to accept the fact, and this is a real danger, that they're up against odds today that they just can't handle.
Especially when they see no success at all in Carolina. So versatile, so big, and throwing so many options at you.
Well, playing their best this year, I don't think I've seen anybody better than North Carolina. Now, they have had some down moments. The biggest down moment of the year probably was right here on this court, where Wake Forest just took them to task with behind Rodney Rogers. Montross only had 5 points that day in serious foul trouble.
And I know a team that would like a second crack at them. Billy Rafter and I saw them play Seton Hall. Very good game in the Meadowlands. Nice pass inside, and boy, not a way for Rhode Island to go in for the half, but it's been that way all half. That's the end of the first half with the score. North Carolina 50, Rhode Island 21. CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the NCAA.
And, of course, the Big East tournament. One of the things that is really obvious to me is everybody talks about the momentum, the role that you get going into the NCAA tournament. And what we're seeing is that the postseason tournament really isn't that big a factor. A Georgia Tech, a Texas Tech, a Missouri, all having great weekends last weekend, all already back home in the NCAA tournament. A club like Duke that really needed to get rested came out, got that full week's rest, and then came out and played about as well as they've played all year long. So the postseason conference tournament, not as big a thing as you would expect in terms of what it does for you in the NCAA tournament. And I think back to Kansas in '88, got knocked right out of the Big 8 tournament and then got on their roll. So don't make a big thing out of that postseason tournament.
You know, Billy Packer, I know money's not a concern of yours, but the role you may be talking about is the financial rewards. They're helpful for programs, actually student endeavors, so it's a healthy situation from a financial standpoint.
Well, I think that there's only one tournament in the country that really has got a financial bonanza, and that is the Atlantic Coast Conference. And what I'd like to see, Bill, is some thought put by the other leagues around the United States to say, is there a way to have a preseason tournament that could take the place of a postseason tournament, so you really have 3 phases of college basketball? The preseason tournament, the regular season, and then the NCAA tournament to wrap things up.
All right, Billy, you know, this was the game, the 12 o'clock game on Saturday a year ago. You were in the studio when Francesca suggested we could walk the dog for the second half of the Duke-Iowa game. What do you think about this one?
Well, I think we're seeing an awesome display right now, and one of the things that, Jim, was very obvious in the last couple of minutes of this game, and I mentioned to you the fact that Rhode Island's going to have to send 5 guys to the boards to get anything going at all, and when they did, of course, North Carolina went right down and got an easy layup. And you noticed on the faces of some of the Rhode Island players is, hey, guys, we've had a great year, but I think we've gone as far as we can go, and that's something Al Skinner is going to have to change in his locker room, or Mike's right, they can walk the dog all the way back to Rhode Island.
All right. Thank you very much, Billy. We'll get back to you shortly. As the basketball action continues non-stop this weekend, there's a tendency to lose ourselves in the maze of man-to-mans and switches. So we asked Pat O'Brien to put this tournament in perspective and to share some thoughts on what we can take home after all of the cheering stops in the tournament.
Well, the first round is now history, and since this tournament is about college students, let us take a step back and ask ourselves, what have we learned from all this? We learned some basic geography. For instance, there's a Manhattan in Kansas. That's where the Kansas State Wildcats have returned. There's also a Manhattan here in New York, of course, but surprisingly, it's located in the Bronx. We learned some zoology, and in specific, we discovered that this is not a good month for tigers, regardless of whether these toothless tabbies hail from Memphis State or Missouri, Tennessee State, or Louisiana State, whose coach had a parting shot for the Golden Bears, who bid him as he bid us bye-bye on his way back to the Bayou.
I hope this will help Cal, but I don't think they've got a prayer of beating Duke.
We also learned about human relations, about fathers and sons. Grant Hill of Duke and his proud dad, Calvin, whose son has not grown up to be a cowboy. At Brigham Young, Roger Reed coaches his son, Randy Reed, while sometimes Bob Knight has trouble reading his son, Pat.
Well, there have been a time or two that he has given me great indications as to why some animals eat their young.
We learned a very important philosophic lesson, namely that every assumption must be challenged. After all, why should a number 15 seed such as Santa Clara even bother to show up against second-seeded Arizona? Here's why.
Arizona's got a chance. Stoudemire. No. Tipped out.
But above all, this tournament is about kids. Big kids, little kids, kids making moves, kids making music, and kids all dressed up with only one place to go, New Orleans. Of course, some kids stayed home on campus burning the midnight oil. And
goals for the last 8 minutes. Not a pretty picture at all. You know, JB, I was in this position once as a player 100 years ago, right?
You and me both.
Our coach, Bones McKinney, didn't even come into the locker room. Didn't even come in, and we sat in there. What are we going to do? And the guys looked at the shot chart, and they said, you know what? I watched the other team in warm-ups, and they didn't make as many higher percentage in warm-ups, so let's not even guard them this second. And we all start laughing. I mean, what are you going to do? You got to go out and say, this is a half for seniors now. You know, you go out on the base of pride and say, you know, we can play better than this. We probably are not going to win this game, but let's suck it up and play better.
So the senior half coming up.
I think that's what's necessary, and if you're Al Skinner, you got to say, hey, look, I'd like to bring Fox off the bench. Too late for all that theory now. Get him out on the floor. Let him play. He's got 3 fouls on him. See what you can do.
Al Skinner's team has struggled in a half before. Their lowest output had been 22 points against UMass in the first half, so this ties an all-time low for them with 21 points.
And they're shooting 22% in this game for the half. Massachusetts in that game held them to 32% for the whole game.
And Cofield trying to get things started, does not. And a foul underneath, and it goes to the other end. And a squad taking note of what's going on here. Arkansas, which will be taking on St. John's, and that squad defensively, certainly one of the most tenacious performances I've seen.
You know what? That's a good picture. That's the only time you'll ever see those guys still.
No doubt about it.
They fly when they get on the floor.
The entire squad.
There's trapping defense again. That means a lot of potential inside.
Reese rebounded by Samuel. Loose ball that he loses it, and Montross comes up with it. It's been that kind of day.
If you're going to trap North Carolina, believe me, they're going to go lob to Montross. There it is.
And there the Montrosses, Janice and Scott, enjoying the action.
And they do not miss a game. Come down from Indianapolis every game that young man plays.
Well, Pops can fly wherever he wants. And here comes a fly.
I really think, going back, and I realize there are a lot of keys to this game, but starting Donald Williams, and you know, you say in a game it's a 30-point blowout situation, you know, why is that such a key? I think it just set a stage early on that took away what Rhode Island wanted to do to this team, which is pack things in. And Donald Williams is such an explosive scorer that you just can't do that to him.
Rhode Island has not been able to take that shot away from Donald Williams. Donald Williams has connected from 14 points already.
And Al Skinner says, Billy, I'm not listening to you. Fox is going to sit over here. That's the style we play. So
we're going to stay with it.
That's right. Fox did not start. And now he's going to come in a little earlier. It's a Fox time, not at the 7-minute mark, but right away. So maybe we are talking to each other.
Some of the contests you'll see tomorrow here on CBS. Xavier of Ohio taking on Indiana, Wake Forest and Iowa, UCLA and Michigan. That ought to be a nice one.
UCLA, a hard-fought victory there. Iowa, the #1 rebounding margin team in the United States. Wake Forest had their way yesterday by overpowering, but going against Iowa, that should be a little different story.
And we're looking at a team here, North Carolina, that came into the tournament, the 4th best rebounding margin team in the country.
And the #1 in point scoring margin in the country. And, of course, they're picking up today right where they have been all year long.
Derek Phelps with the lay-in. It's 58-23, Carolina on top. And, Billy, you know, you were talking about probably the mindset of the Rhode Island players going in at half. When they came back out for the second half to warm up, Carlos Cofield's expression said it all. He looked over and said, my gosh.
Yeah, well, he's a man that scored 22 the other day, is 0 for 5 with no points in the first half of this one. Now, if you're Dean Smith, one of the things that you have to be concerned about now is to keep up your intensity and your concentration in this game. Realize they have a week. They'll have a week off now before they get ready for the next game, but you want your guys to remember what it felt like to just go out and bury somebody.
Samuel with the score. Well, looking at the Carolina players, looking at their faces, it was like, hey, you know, the same expression. Absolutely the same. Robots. And there's the biggest of them all.
And they're just throwing right over the top. Mike Brown might have been able to do a good job on Glenn Robinson, who stands 6'8". but at a 7'1" player, he just at too big odds. Here comes that trapping defense by North Carolina, and off and running again. Sullivan hit ahead.
And Billy, that was an example there to me that a team doesn't necessarily have to possess an awful lot of individual speed to run the fast break well. I think back to the great Boston Celtics teams that did not have a lot of foot speed, but they ran the break consciously using that pass.
Nice move that time. I'd agree, JB. Nice move by Samuel, using the rim to shield Montross, who could not get over there for the block.
Derek Phelps having himself an outstanding afternoon, 6 of 6 from the field.
Nice catch by Sullivan, realizing he had to make the catch before he made the next play.
Well, the expressions right there say it all, because this team was a very intense, competitive team in warm-ups with the looks on their faces, but not now.
And of course, the Atlantic 10, as we said, came into this game with 4 teams that had played and 4 victories. So this will be the first loss of the tournament for a conference that has played extremely well.
So we take a look at things in the East. North Carolina, certainly things ought to hold here. We'll move on.
And play the
next, it'll be Arkansas and St. John's.
And that's who, of course, North Carolina will play the winner of that particular game. And again, going back to that magnificent 7 group, there's Montross. Nothing you can do with him down on the inside unless you've got a guy of comparable size. You pointed out Luther Wright as a possibility. But when you look at be a matchup for North Carolina, the winner of the St. John's Arkansas game, a contrast in styles there today.
Billy, I don't know that I would have my guys from Arkansas sit out here and watch this much longer. I'd probably have them inside. I wouldn't want them to be affected by that.
Well, you know, different coaches have different philosophies there. Some don't allow their players ever to see an opponent. In the case of others, they don't mind if a guy hangs around the gym. There's no theory that absolutely works all the time.
Well, the best is knowing the emotional and mental makeup of your team.
You know, that's true. You know, JB, even sometimes within players, there's certain guys that don't want to see any part of an opponent. Other fellas don't mind watching the films, coming out to the ball games.
And once again, Billy, the basket to our right, the shot clock is dead again. That problem occurred on Thursday night. Not that Carolina needs one at this point in the game.
Nice Williams. Good spin move and look by Reese, but I can't believe they're not stopping it. They are. The official is going to stop it because a big disadvantage to a team. Now, all of a sudden, as the referee blows the whistle, the shot clock comes back on.
Maybe it's audio control, because as soon as Bob Garibaldi blew the whistle, the shot clock came back on.
The quotes are in on the all-new Geo Prism. A look that easily surpasses Honda's best efforts to date. A handsomely styled, roomy, refined sedan. A best buy. But the most impressive quote of all may be the one you get from your Chevrolet Geo dealer.
Cellular One has set up state-of-the-art cellular service that reaches clear across America. Beautiful, isn't it?
Lasers. Satellites. Cellular data networks. What exactly are we preparing for? UPS introduces Total Track, the only tracking system that can confirm delivery of your air and designated ground packages coast to coast in seconds.
Was signed for at 9:26 this morning by Miss.
The arms race may be over, but the package race is just heating up.
Here comes Jim, in for a pit.
Jim, backyard's next.
Hey, no duels. Non-alcohol, 70 calories. Perfect. After all, the competition competition. It was pretty stiff out here.
When you want the refreshing taste of beer without the alcohol, think O'Doul's. It's what beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking beer.
Lee Horsley.
I think he sent us.
Investigates crimes of passion.
Let that monster back out onto the street.
His life on the line. Bodies of Evidence returns Friday, April 2nd.
Here we see the Magnificent Seven, 31-point margin. Right now, North Carolina at 37. The stock of the Magnificent Seven is moving up.
If it held at 37, then the average will be 34.
And you know what Dean Smith is saying about the shot clock? We can play without it, and I've watched them practice, and it's amazing how they get used to playing with time. So he said, we'll play without it. But I think what he asked for is, how about letting Rhode Island play without it down the other end? It didn't work out that way, so we've got the shot clock on one end and not the other. North Carolina comes out in that matchup zone of theirs with Lynch setting the stage in the back line.
Now, this will be interesting to see how Carolina does handle it down on this end without the shot clock. And that's why the shot clock maybe isn't working. The cable unplugged. Something basic, huh?
Yep. Well, you're not looking at me if you're looking for any help there.
Ditto. All I can say is plug it in. So they come up with the portable deal. They're ready here.
Solis on the line, not having a good day. The young man that you talked to before the game, JB, transferred from Brooklyn College, where they did away with the game in Division I situation, so he was immediately eligible for Rhode Island and did a nice job here. Average 14 points, 7 rebounds at Brooklyn College. A little different level than playing against North Carolina, as he finds out right now with Montross inside.
And I tell you, you can tell by his body language there, he's all but given up.
Yeah. Well, we saw the pass go right over the top. Nothing they can do, and you're right. And this is really not a knock on them, JB, but the Rhode Island players, you can see just by that look, saying, you know, we just can't stop this crowd. And there's David Kane, who had the triple-double the other day. Now, there's a kind of a gym rat guy. We saw him after his triple-double sitting out watching basketball.
Loves the game.
Yep.
And I still go back to the point, waited 3 years to get his starting opportunity with St. John's, and boy, is he making the most of it.
And there it is. The matchup starts out 2-3, then becomes 1-3-1. Point zone in North Carolina's. And for people that really want to watch the intricacy of this defense, keep an eye on George Lynch, who's the man on the back line. Phelps again going for another break.
On the front line, Phelps. And he's fouled. Well, the other side of the East bracket that Carolina hopes to go up against eventually, Virginia and Massachusetts, New Mexico State, Cincinnati. Boy, talk about a speed matchup in the backcourt. New Mexico State with the guard by the name of Sam Crawford, and Cincinnati, of course, with Mick Van Exel.
Correct. Great quickness there, and of course, Cincinnati's trapping defense will keep Crawford occupied. And we'll see that in our second game today. You know, Arkansas is great defense. You've got a guy like Kane who's been very good with the ball, better than a 2-for-1 turnover assist ratio. But you don't face many total team quicknesses like Arkansas has, or Cincinnati for that matter.
No question about it. Solis has his shot blocked by Salvadori.
Salvadori, leading shot blocker last year for North Carolina. This year a little bit behind Montross.
Rhode back in for the Tar Heels, replacing Derek Phelps. As we take a look at the Southeast brackets, and speed in a collective sense will be on display when Tulane and Florida State tangle. And really, I've said it all along, Florida State, a far different ball club when a healthy, good-playing Charlie Ward is at the point.
Well, that is true, because Bob Sir and Sam Cassell, who are also excellent guards, have an opportunity then to go ahead and do what they do best, which is to create their own situation. Charlie Ward settles them down offensively, and of course has that great anticipation on the defensive end of the floor. Solid back screen by Williams. Let's Lynch post up. He's still posting up inside, and good job by Fox.
Williams, a good job all afternoon by Don Williams. The young man with the long-range shot, 17 points.
You know, Dean Smith is getting concerned right now. I mean, he's up off the bench. He is on he's off the bench. And I don't think he knows exactly what he wants to do at this stage. You know, does he go and bring in the deep bench, guys that don't normally play? I mean, he's got 13 minutes. He doesn't want any more of anybody to get hurt, obviously.
Well, you can come up with a number of these numbers, and they all favor North Carolina.
Montross, of course, last year when North Carolina upset then #1 Duke, came out of that face bloody. Had his face all cut up, but did a great job in that game. High point in the year for the University of North Carolina as they played so well. Of course, this year, first team all-conference in the league, and now Reese hits from the outside. Everybody says it's a poor perimeter shooting team, but notice what happens when Williams gets them started. Everybody else gains their confidence.
And Reese still a little upset from earlier. You can tell by the scowl on his face when he was going at it with a couple of Rams players. Nice pass on the inside to Samuel, and it's been that kind of an afternoon for the Rams.
Great.
Twice.
Get it in there.
Layups. And Salvador gets too much of a hand on Samuel here.
Well, you know what happened here, JB, and Al Skinner just rubbing his head and saying, how is this possible? But you know what it is? They have been so used to playing against so much size that you go up off the floor anticipating the block. And you alter your shot, even though you're wide open.
Montross having an effect sitting on the bench there.
Yeah, you look over there and say, well, he's still got to be in here. I mean, you know, it's kind of like having that Spalding put on your head too many times, you know?
Matt Wenstrom in, the senior center out of Houston, Texas, replacing George Lynch.
Well, that's what Montross was complaining about the other day. They were hooking me in the arm. Remember that little sequence? So... And I think, as I said before, I thought that Dean Smith was starting to show a concerned look on his face, like, do I go with my guys that don't normally play and just say this game is over? And that's what he's decided to do. You could see that concern.
That with 13-10 left in the ball game, and Carolina on top 75-31.
The top-heavy NCAA tournament this year. But what does that mean for when we get down to the Sweet 16? I mean, there should be some blistering games.
Well, Scott Cherry now into the ball game for the Tar Heels, a senior guard out of Ballston Spa, New York. You mentioned a senior kind of a half is the way the Rams ought to approach it, but right now it's Carolina making it a senior kind of a half. Abdul Fox, and he's called for charging. So that is the fourth personal foul on Abdul Fox with 12:39 left.
Well, you know, I have to go all the way back to January 6, 1965, James, and Dean Smith came to Winston-Salem, North Carolina with the team. He'd been coaching 3.5 years by then. He was 41-33 at North Carolina up to that point in his tenure. He came over and got blown out here in Winston-Salem, 107-85. They returned back to North Carolina, and they hung him in effigy. So here we are now in 1993, and he's trying to figure out a way to let everybody play in the same town where he had such a low moment.
Isn't that amazing as we take a look at the other side of the Southeast bracket, Kentucky and Utah, Wake Forest and Iowa. That ought to be a good game.
Yeah, he's come a long way since then.
But you think about some of the coaches, the bigger names in the game today who were, quote-unquote, hung in effigy early in their career. Mike Krzyzewski, the same thing at Duke. John Thompson, the same thing at Georgetown.
Just a little bit of patience. Of course, over the course of time, you know, in the last 15 years, I want you to just think about this for a second. We start talking about this North Carolina club. They have only been seated below a number 4 one time. Once. 15 years. That was 1990. They were seeded 8th. That's when they upset Oklahoma to advance to the Sweet 16. Dean Smith now has 12 of those going in a row. But that's amazing. Only seeded below a number 4 once in 15 years.
Well, for the ones who play the office pool, they take a look at the eastern half of the bracket. And
nice dish. Another nice dish coming. to Calabria, back to Rhode.
And Solis, a blocking foul called on Carolina. Well, you think that Carolina has anywhere near a chance of getting to that 69 points, the largest margin of victory ever?
I hope not. I hope not.
I'm being honest about it.
Yeah, I really do. You know, and I know Dean Smith hopes that that doesn't happen, too. And you can see he's putting his guys down now, going to let them rest, make sure that nobody gets hurt.
But the thing is, Dean has every member of his team in practice executing just as much as the starters. So it may happen.
Without question. And, of course, you improve by playing every day against a team of this caliber. So it's not like they haven't faced some pretty good competition.
Well, you think 3 7-footers is a luxury in terms of having big people. They could have had 4 7-footers. And, indeed, the fourth one is a red shirt, Serge Zwicker.
Wenstrom walks before he gets an opportunity to use the drop step.
Mercifully, a break in the action.
There's cause for celebration. It's the opening of the latest ITT Sheraton Hotel. Sheraton is now the ultimate global hotel chain for business travelers, with 420 hotels, inns, resorts, and all suites, and one high standard of service in over 60 countries. What does ITT bring to the party? $1 billion worth of improved systems, services, and renovations. ITT, we're adding more than just our name.
I got an 88 Chevrolet Silverado with 304,000 miles. I drive it to work, 125 miles one way to work, 304,000 miles, still rolling.
I got approximately 353,000 miles on this truck. It runs 10 or 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. It's always brought us in, you know, regardless of where we was or what we was doing.
Chevrolet, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road.
Keep tires on it, keep gas in it, it'll go.
Bill Walsh for Sharp.
In sports, you'd better know where your X's and O's are. It's no different in business. You need a game plan. And Sharp's got winning game plans for your business. A booklet that'll help you find the right copier, like Sharp's high-volume duplicating system. It's going to increase your productivity and reduce your operating expenses. And how Sharp, the #1 fax company, can show you a plain paper laser fax with the lowest cost per copy in the industry. So call 1-800-BE-SHARP for your winning game plan. Believe me, nothing beats winning.
Burt Reynolds for Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. You know, when it comes to protecting against friction, nothing beats Quaker State. When it comes to protecting against viscosity breakdown, nothing beats Quaker State. When it comes to keeping engines clean, nothing beats Quaker State. Take it from me, for unbeatable protection, nothing beats Quaker State. It's one tough motor oil.
Thursday, April 1st. Don't miss the show critics say is better than L.A. Law used to be.
Jimmy getting shot is no coincidence.
Picket fences, moving to Thursdays.
Well, nothing but smiles from those two people right there. A very young couple, Linda and Emmanuel Phelps. Derek's mom, happy, of course, that he's playing, and she's also very happy. She works in the World Trade Center. And, of course, when the major explosion took place a few weeks ago, Dean Smith was spent some very anxious moments wondering if she was okay, and obviously she is, and survived that, and her son has survived very well that spine problem that he had, and so everything coming up perfect for the University of North Carolina and the Phelps family.
And she's blessed to be here.
Calabria, Rhode, and you can see that Dean Smith now going completely with a small, with his bench team, and there's Wenstrom, the other 7-footer.
I was about to mention nothing small about him, though.
Exactly. It's almost like Montross repeated right there, went right over the top.
Well, it's been a practice session for North Carolina today, shooting unbelievably from the field, scoring at will in the paint, and Derek Phelps, a perfect kind of a day from the floor for him.
And there's Rhode Island down there still shooting under 25% for the game, or 22% in the first half. Wenstrom gets it to roll in. And they stay in the zone. So the ACC now will go. Nice shot by Brown. A little flash there, but the ACC now will go to 6 wins and 1 loss in this tournament. Calabria's got himself in some trouble.
Cherry for 3. Cherry picking from 3-point range.
And now the starters get a chance to be the rooters for a while.
Billy, you made a point also that Rhode Island knew it awfully quickly.
Yep.
That, in fact, they were out of this one.
Yeah, their spirits were broken right off the bat. And it became very obvious to both of us, and I'm sure to anybody watching this game, that with about 3 minutes to go in the end of the first half, this group knew that there was no way they were advancing beyond this game. And right now, you know, the crowd, it is a very strange game. You know, you come and anticipating that there's going to be some type of activity that you can see. There's the backdoor cut by North Carolina. Very effective in the first half to Rhode.
And Winstrom's called for pushing under the basket. It'll be Rhode Island ball as they head toward the opposite end of the floor. Today's Midwest bracket, California and Duke, and as Billy and I talked about, hard to overlook, of course, that matchup between Jason Kidd and Bobby Hurley, as much as the coaches want to focus on a team game in BYU and Kansas.
And, of course, Duke University coming off Hurley 8 of 9 threes in the game the other day. Of course, that's better than even what Steve Alford did in the Final Four when he had 7 of 10 threes against Syracuse, and Indiana won down in New Orleans. What a day. They made 14 of 19 threes for the game. Indiana, explosive first game.
I tell you, Bobby Knight really has done a remarkable job, because, Billy, I was one of the people who thought that without Alan Henderson, they would be struggling a bit, but he really does have a collective toughness attitude, if you will, with that team, and they're doing quite well.
Without question. And, of course, Henderson did get in and made a layup. It's hard to tell whether or not he'll be able to go in a real competitive type game. Nice pass.
And Cherry kicks it out. Sullivan is fouled.
Got fouled after the shot. Ivy Jones, that'll be his 4th. Doesn't make much difference now in regard to who may foul out.
Still to come, St. John's in Arkansas. We'll find out whether or not the Redmen can handle the pressure of Arkansas. Ronnie Rutledge, the assistant coach of St. John's, had remarked, Arkansas plays defense a lot like Georgetown, only with a lot better athletes.
You know, I think about this North Carolina team over the years with this incredible record that Dean Smith has had. 16 times in the last 22 years in the NCAA tournament. They have been beaten. When they are beaten, they're beaten by a Final Four team. 6 times that they were beaten in the NCAA tournament, they were beaten by the eventual champ. So they have won, under Dean Smith, 1 national championship, but they've been in the thick of it in regard to numerous others.
Offsets a lot of the criticism that some folks will send his way, saying, well, why hasn't he won more? He's lost some excellent teams. One more, that is, in terms of national titles.
2 7-footers out there. Salvadori felt he was hit on the arm. But this is not the game you complain to the referee and saying, hey, I need a call.
They want to do anything but.
Good tap in.
And a tap in by Mike Brown out of Los Angeles, California. Mike Brown tapping in the basket for Rhode Island. He's got 9 points, averaging 12.
Had 16 the other day against Purdue.
And for those who may just be tuning in and wondering why the crowd is relatively quiet, well, the score is 87-42. North Carolina with 8:50 left in the ball game. The top seed, indeed, most impressive this afternoon. At the conclusion of every NCAA tournament game, we will select the Chevrolet players of the game. In conjunction with the award, Chevrolet will donate $1,000 to the General Scholarship Fund of both schools.
Now we're going to see the fans kind of cheer when Larry Davis gets up off the bench for Dean Smith. This young man is really an explosive player. And I think the people enjoy watching him play. He hit a 3 to end the game the other day against East Carolina.
A freshman out of Denmark, South Carolina.
And you know, you think about North Carolina's team, they're missing one of the players that came in with that great recruiting class of Montross and Reese and Phelps. And that's, of course, Clifford Rozier, who had 20 yesterday for Louisville. Just imagine him in this lineup as well.
Young man who wanted a bit more playing time and taking advantage of it with Louisville.
He's getting it now and maybe get a chance to play against his old teammates if they can advance.
That would be interesting. As Kevin Salvadori taps it in.
Brown, there's that senior situation I was talking about. North Carolina stays in the zone. Dean Smith wanting to get this one over with. And Al Skinner likewise.
Quite a few others added to that list as well. Calabria with the rebound.
And everybody trapping. There should be somebody to hit ahead to.
Cherry kicks it to Davis.
Nice job by Cherry. Almost was able to keep the ball alive.
A little too nice a job by Cherry as he picks up the foul. Well, Dean Smith is on so many lists, Billy. We could go through them exhaustively. My goodness.
Well, hit his 50th all-time NCAA win the other day. And, of course, you can see the man right behind him there, John Wooden, with 47, those 10 national championships. Of course, you have to point out a couple of things, too, that the NCAA championship used to be just 4 games. I mean, you're national champion, you had to win 4 games. Now you win 6, so there are more opportunities to win. That's not to take anything away from what Coach Smith has accomplished for those 50 victories.
Interestingly, John Wooden thinks it's a little easier to win.
I can't agree with him. Can't agree with him.
I hear you.
A few days later, lost to College of Charleston. Last Sunday, knocks off #1 North Carolina. 5 days later, lose to Southern. I mean, how can you be at such incredible highs and then incredible lows in such a short period of time? Just doesn't make any sense.
A real Jekyll and Hyde team, but give a tip of the hat to the Southwest Athletic Conference. There's the SWAC Conference with Southern doing the job there. Jackson State, the team most people thought would be in the NCAAs, knocking off Connecticut in the NIT with Lindsey Hunter, who is really one outstanding guard. And there's another guard in the SWAC, too. I believe his name is Al Ford. Had a chance to watch him play briefly, so some pretty good talent there.
Yeah, 2 of the highest scoring players in college basketball this year. Nice drive by Cherry. Hit the jumper before. We saw Davis. And I mentioned what an acrobatic type player that he is, making a nice drive before for the University of North Carolina.
And that is the 5th foul on Ivy Jones, who will head to the bench. And with his team trailing 89-48, he leaves the game with only 7 points. Well, Billy, the other side of the West bracket, we were talking about Georgia Tech, Temple and Santa Clara, Vanderbilt, and Illinois.
Big Ten.
And Temple could do some damage there.
Yep, the Big Ten and the SEC coming out pretty well so far in the tournament. As I said before, I guess the big loser of opening days of the Southwest Conference. 2 in, 2 out right away. And of course, the Big 8 that had a very disappointing opening day with only Oklahoma State and Kansas winning.
Now, Billy, you talked during halftime making a recommendation that maybe the conference format ought to be changed and have it as a preseason tournament. Do you think there's any move afoot, any belief on the movers and shakers that can happen?
Well, I don't know, but they certainly, the Mike Brown hits one out there, they certainly have to be thinking about it because it is something that needs to take a real strong study. How can you make it work financially and also make the game more interesting at the beginning of the year and not have these postseason tournaments that are turning out to be meaningless in regard to the NCAA tournament.
Salvador fouled as we take a look at Kentucky's victory last night convincingly. And talk about a Jekyll and a Hyde team. Pittsburgh losing to Utah. Gosh, Bill Raftery and I did a game, Pittsburgh and Illinois, and Pittsburgh looked like world beaters as we take a look at Mike Moten and fouling out with 4 points.
That same Pittsburgh team beat UCLA. I mean, they had some very good non-conference wins. Beat Illinois at Illinois. So, you know, a very good victory there. We talked about, you know, Dean Smith, too, before, JB, about all the wins. I think one of the things that didn't get in many papers around the United States is a major win that he gave to the University of North Carolina. He and his wife, Linnea, $100,000 to be used for various educational purposes at the school. He said the school has been so great to him that he likes to give things back. And you know they've got that incredible Dean Dome over there, 30-some million they raised in cash before they turned the first spade. And that was done by that man, too, because if he had said, no, I don't want a gym, there wouldn't be one. But he said he wanted one. They went out and raised the money without too much trouble.
And got him one of the best in the country.
That's right.
Well, I had a chance to talk with Dean Smith's wife, Dr. Linnea Smith, at length, and a psychiatrist in Chapel Hill, and very active. As a matter of fact, she was very instrumental in getting kids out of the swimsuit issue of Sports Illustrated.
And also out of Playboy, the All-American team, which North Carolina does not cooperate with. So very outspoken woman and very intelligent woman. Whether you agree with her politics or not. Well, here we go. We talked about JB earlier. The Atlantic 10-4-0. They'll drop one right now, and the ACC keeps marching on. This is a conference, as everybody knows, has had an incredible run of late in terms of the NCAA tournament. Best winning percentage.
And certainly prior to this schwacking today by North Carolina, the A-10, I think, vindicated the men's basketball selection committee with its performance in the tournament, doing quite well.
Certainly agree with that. Of course, you know, we talked about Duke with a great game that they had. That's 18 out of the last 19 NCAA games. Duke has come away a winner. Good steal by Fox. Oh, good block by Salvadorian. It's off Fox's legs, and that may be typical of Rhode Island's game today.
And the benefit of that long wingspan.
Yep, but you can see it. Goes by Wenstrom, and then there's Salvadorian. It hits right off Fox's foot.
Under 6 to play in the contest. Carolina on top, 94-53, make it 96-53. Chance to add to it as Salvadorian will take a trip to the free throw line.
Yeah, it's just incredible the difference between posting up against guys that have been 6'8" maybe at best, and then having to play the post defense against the 7-footer. That entry pass is just going right over the outstretched hands of guys like Solis and Brown down low, making for layup after layup opportunity for the University of North Carolina.
And Billy, in terms of frustration and discussing Rhode Island's attempt to do something with North Carolina and not being successful at all, I think back to the Holy Cross Arkansas matchup, and the Holy Cross kids, you know, really going up against a suffocating defense, but again, continuing to try.
Right, the difference in that game was not the size up above, it was the great foot speed and quickness down below, and Holy Cross just couldn't adjust to it. They just hadn't played anybody that quick. And there we see the size again. Oh, great catch by Wenstrom. Nice pass.
And Davis is hammered by DeMont Collins as he limps off after the block.
And here we talked about playing above. And there's Mike Brown, goes up, and Salvadori says, thank you very much. I'll take that. And starts the break in the other direction.
Travis Stevenson and Ed Geff into the lineup for the Tar Heels, replacing Salvadori and Calabria.
And there, you know, it's not 52 seconds left in the game. There's 5 minutes and 21 seconds. Stevenson hit that shot at the end of the Duke game at home. North Carolina getting a rest that even Dean Smith couldn't have anticipated before this game started.
And these guys right here, that they would even see action. Yep. Stevenson and Geff. As Davis cans them.
Boy, he's got a nice looking stroke, this Fox.
Very strong. We saw him nail quite a few in practice and also pre-game on Thursday. Carolina looking for the century mark.
Cherry making a lot of good moves on the inside. Stevenson, nobody to throw to. There's Davis, good pump fake.
Will Davis get it? No, he doesn't.
I think he's trying too hard to score as Samuel puts Geff down. Fox. Well, he's a player.
And still playing.
Yep. Fox will not only be outstanding on the college level next year for Rhode Island, I expect that he'll move on to the bigger time when his career's over there.
And score the basket and the century mark for the Tar Heels.
And you know what? Dean Smith pointed a finger out to Cherry, and he recognizes when a guy is staying within the framework of the offense and doing the right things. Cherry playing a very solid game right now. Saw playing time earlier in the year in some crucial moments. And, of course, as a senior here, being involved in his mop-up duty, but doing the things that Dean Smith appreciates.
Solis fouls out as we take a look at what's coming next. St. John's and Arkansas. As Solis fouls out with only 5 points on the afternoon for the Rams. 100-57. Tar Heels on top. 4:27 left in the game. Winstrom at the line.
Well, you know, there gets a point in time when sometimes that defeat, which they recognized a long time ago, is now settled in, and they can relax a little bit. And that's what's happening at the Rhode Island bench. You don't see that anguished look because they realize that there was not much opportunity in this game.
Samuel with the kiss. And again, I go back to the expression that Carlos Cofield displayed at the start of the second half, running by you and myself and indicating, boy, these guys are just too much. And in fact, that's the way it's been. The fans want Stevenson to take the shot. He's passing instead.
As Davis can't get anything to fall, but again.
Back out there we go to Winston-Salem, JB and Billy Packer.
All right, Jimmy, thank you very much. And a 45-point margin of victory by the Tar Heels. I'm kind of interested to know from the player standpoint. We're talking with Derek Phelps and Eric Montross. When did you see in the eyes of the Rhode Island players in the first half that maybe they had kind of given up?
About 12 minutes in the first half, I felt the players couldn't get no good shots off each and every time. I think we were playing that good, solid defense that really held them to a minimum amount of points.
The Rams were trying their best, Eric, to push you out as high as possible. The guys that talked about playing some other strong players, but they say you're the strongest.
Well, you know, the best thing that happened, Rafael Solis came up to me at the end of the game. He said, I hope you're sore. And, you know, it's obvious they were trying to really go in there and bang, but they did it pretty clean, so it was a fun game inside.
They did do it clean, but we know who's sore right now. Billy?
Well, Coach, you've had now 51 NCAA wins, but I don't think any of them could have surprised you any more than this one, the way it happened.
This really was a surprise, Billy. I thought it'd be a close ball game because they're